Hello and welcome to another episode of Chuchu is a Ranker. On this episode we are going to be continuing our albums of the year list. This time it's everybody's favourite year, 2020. And 2020 is actually a pretty good year. Wait, no, that just feels wrong. Did I just say 2020 is a pretty good year? I think that's like tantamount to abusing a child somewhere. But yeah, strangely, 2020 is a pretty good year. I mean, the top 5 on this list is absolutely banging. So, without further ado, let's be complete rankers and rank up a storm. These are my personal top 10 albums of 2020. So, we're going to be kicking off this list with Imploding the Mirage by The Killers, which was the band's 6th LP. And this is something of a rebound record, as after their 3rd album, Day and Age, The Killers basically hurtled off a cliff and dive-bombed in terms of quality. Mercifully, this sees the band crawling back out of the pit with an 80s synth-pop Americana hybrid set to maximum stadium rock epicness. To be honest, this is as overblown and as cheesy as you can possibly get. It's basically supersized American trash, made for people who like to pump their fists in the air a bit too much. Then again, the previous few years were riddled with quiet and dignified singer-songwriter albums, imbued with subtlety and grace, so a little fist-pumping suddenly seems fairly refreshing. I mean, hey, sometimes caning a whole bag of Doritos and knocking back a bottle of Coke just feels right, even though you know you shouldn't be doing it. And to that end, tracks like the thumping synth-pop opener, My Own Soul's Warning, or the descending melodies of Mega Ballad, When the Dreams Run Dry, more than satiate that occasional craving for good old American processed cheese. Next up we have Interview Music by Scottish rockers Idlewild, which was their 9th LP, and here we find the band trying their hand at a psychedelic art rock record with some proggy overtones, which is certainly a bit of a left turn for the band. Thankfully it works out pretty well and the band deliver an atmospheric and cohesive record where each song serves the overall atmosphere, with most tracks melting into the texture of the album. There's still time for some individual highlights though. You Wear It Second Hand is a beautifully dovetailing ballad with a gorgeous melody. Same Things Twice rocks out like old school Idlewild and even features the odd punky shout. I Almost Didn't Notice has Roddy Womble putting his excellent contented lyricism on display, while Lake Martinez is a wonderfully stripped back piano closer that is just absolutely gorgeous. So yeah, this is just another rock solid LP by Idlewild that has plenty of passion and ambition woven into its seams. Next up we have Future Nostalgia by English pop diva Dua Lipa, and here we have a 1980s inflected synthpop LP with lots of flashy, immediate hooks and soaring choruses. To be honest, there's not a whole lot more to say about this record. It's simply a really slick, well-made and catchy blast of radio pop. It's not particularly deep or emotive or innovative, but it is a lot of pop fun and guaranteed to make any party you have lift up a notch when you stick it on the stereo. Opener, Future Nostalgia, catches ears immediately with Dua Lipa's delightfully British accent. Levitating twists Lily Allen's LDN into pleasant new shapes. Break My Heart samples the bass line from INXS's Need You Tonight to fun results, while Good in Bed has some really zany vocal gymnastics to enjoy. My favourite off of this though is the closing Boys Will Be Boys, which is a beautiful and extremely catchy ballad with some stomping feminist lyrics. Plus it just makes me think of the Ordinary Boys frontman Preston just looking through Dua Lipa's window with a tear in his eye. So yeah, this is slick radio pop done to perfection, and at only 37 minutes it wraps up in a timely fashion and eliminates any opportunity for filler. Just really good stuff here from Dua Lipa. Next up we have No Dream by Jeff Rosenstock, which was his 5th LP, and Jeff's brand of super melodic pop punk made him one of the most consistent artists of the 2010s. Here he's kicking off the new decade with yet another quality release. On this, Jeff is reversing track from his previous album Post, abandoning the more mature soundscapes and heading back to the energetic pogo pop of his earlier releases. And yeah, it's just Jeff doing what Jeff does best, crafting a set of insanely catchy tunes with strong melodies and good lyrics that just make you want to start jumping around. Scram has a really catchy sing-along melody that lingers in the memory. No Dream has a great build-up and a fantastically chaotic explosion. State Line has a cool siren guitar underpinning its more emotional composition, and the album highlight Fame is super catchy and a mosh-inducing banger that just makes you want to smash pogo holes in your father's drywall like you did when you were 16 years old. Elsewhere, you have more in the way of easy to listen to pop punk tunes with no clunkers in sight. Yeah, this is just another really good Jeff Rosenstock record. Coming in next, we have Every Bad by English post-punk act Porridge Radio, which was the band's debut album. And to say that Porridge Radio is inspired by The Cure would be making quite the understatement, as Porridge Radio is to The Cure what Gene were to the Smiths, what Idlewild were to R.E.M., and what editors are to Interpol. Slavish emulation, basically. And if the band had messed this up, like even a little, they'd probably be laughed out of the building. Thankfully, they've pretty much nailed this one and crafted a catchy and atmospheric post-punk record. Highlights on a consistent LP include the opener Born Confused, which is a catchy jangle tune, and when singer Dana Margolin starts screaming, "Thank you for making me happy," it sounds like she's possessed by the ghost of Robert Smith. The track Long has some alluring low synth melancholia to it, and tracks like Lilac and Circling are extremely catchy and have awesome pulsating atmospheres to them. So yeah, this is just a really good album of post-punk that sounds nigh on identical to The Cure. Just, best keep this one away from Robert Smith's lawyers. So, we're going to be kicking off the top 5 with Fetched Bolt Cutters by Fiona Apple, which was her 5th LP, and here we have Fiona's awesome smoky jazz stylings expertly displayed but shot through with a more experimental lilt. And her core sound is just so damn cool. The rhythmic swagger of the material on this, chef's kiss. Those obfuscating pianos and absorbing percussion sections are just exquisite. Opener, I Want You to Love Me, is amazing with its frantic classical piano, and it's just pretty mind-blowing. Shamika also follows suit with some awesome piano work and a cool southern blues tint. Fetch the Bolt Cutters and Under the Table are fantastic catchy ballads that nicely bring the tone down, whilst the likes of Relay and Newspaper have great drum work and a creeping sense of darkness to them. So yeah, this is another great album from Fiona Apple, and it might have even scaled up the list a bit if it didn't have the one single fault of being a touch too long. If this record trimmed down its 51-minute runtime to around 40 minutes, Fiona Apple might have been a 2-time winner with this. But as it is, it's still a magnificent LP and an easy placing on this list. Next up, we have High Arctic by Digger Wolf, which was the band's 6th LP. And yeah, Digger who? I mean, this band is about as indie as it gets, operating out of Bandcamp and maintaining a fairly low profile on the internet, which is something I can totally identify with because my own band operates in much the same way. But wow, I mean, this record definitely deserves more attention because it's absolutely brilliant. And the band is an indigenous North American act coming out of Yellowknife in the Northwest Territories, with the frontman singing in both English and his native language, Tlicho. And this album sounds like it's totally steeped in the hunting grounds of the Great White North. It's the type of music that I've rarely heard, to be honest, but musically it sounds a bit like Depeche Mode crossed with Pink Floyd, but with a singer who's about 2 cigarettes away from sounding exactly like Tom Waits. And it's just awesome, like, even though it takes a moment to adjust because it is just so different from everything else. But it's well worth giving it that moment because the album is unique, super atmospheric and stuffed with roaring bangers. Opener, High Arctic, has some native sounding chants over a dynamic wah attack. Instrumental, Running with Wolves, is just absolutely badass, chef's kiss for that one, and has just some stunning guitar work on it. Cry Wolf has a sliveringly dark Depeche Mode vibe, whilst tracks like The Broken Return and the surprisingly romantic The Hopeless Poet have a mesmeric, almost like dreamlike quality to them. My favourite off of this though is the 8.5 minute epic Voices in My Head, which is just dripping with atmospheric regret and impressive instrumentation, including a totally rad synth finale. It's just an awesome track, so yeah, High Arctic is proof that great records can come from the most surprising of places. Highly recommended. Coming in third place and taking home the bronze medal, we have I Am Not a Dog on a Chain by Morrissey. And here we find the Bard making a synth-infused record, which has been a long dreaded but inevitable direction for him to take. But mercifully, I needn't have worried because Morrissey knocks this one straight out of the park with effortless ease. Tracks like the hilarious opener Jim Jim Falls, the almost jazz-like single Bobby Don't You Think They Know, and the insanely catchy Knockabout World see Morrissey at his most vital and energised that he's been for years. Other highlights abound, with the awesome Love It's On Its Way Out slamming the sad Rich for shooting down elephants and lions, or the booming synth work on Once I Saw the River Clean suits Moz's distinctive voice like a glove. And the hits just keep coming on this. Title track I Am Not a Dog on a Chain is defiant to its last gasp. What Kind of People Live in These Houses is a delightfully catchy slice of jangle pop, and Darling I Hug a Pillow is a lovely dovetailing ballad. I mean, I could nitpick and mention that the last 3 tracks take a small step down in quality, but I don't think any of them are bad, and they in no way detract from all the fantastic accomplishments that this LP delivers. So yeah, it's just a real shame that Morrissey was at the nadir of fashion upon this LP's release. If he wasn't held up as the music world's #1 pariah at this point in his career, this record might have actually gained some considerable acclaim. But oh well, that's Morrissey for you. Big Mouth strikes again. And again. And again. And again. Silver medal time, and the silver medal is going to go to Compromat by indie post-punk outfit I Like Trains, which was the band's 4th album and their first for 8 years. And this right here is the album of 2020. Not as in the winner on this list, but as in a record that totally encapsulates the mood of the year. Here the band make a more driving and aggressive record than ever before, with singer Dave Martin focusing his lyrics on the 2020 political arena, letting the clownish likes of Donald Trump and Boris Johnson feel the long lash of his barbs. Musically, as I already mentioned, this is driving and aggressive, with pounding drums, gothic soundscapes, and huge synth lines supporting Martin's monotone, almost spoken word style vocal delivery. And the record is just awesome, like every track is great and each one adds to the overall atmosphere of the LP. High spots include the discordant guitars of Desire Is a Mess, as Martin growls at his targets, "How do you sleep at night?" Dig In is the obvious single with its jangling guitar riff and catchy chorus. Patience is a Virtue has giant Vangelis style synths brushing up against frantic guitar screams, as again Martin warns, "I will take you in these hands and sell you down the river." The album's jewel in the crown though comes in the form of the epic banger The Truth, as David rails off on an awesome Gertrude Stein style rant about crooked politicians and the culture of lies that they propagate, while the rest of the band conjure up the ghost of Johnny Marr for a shimmering jangle rock masterclass. So yeah, timely, epic, dark and totally badass, Compromat is just essential listening for the truly fucked up year that was 2020. So here we are at the top of the mountain, and the gold medal for 2020 is going to go to Sawayama, which was the debut album by Japanese English pop artist Rina Sawayama. And here we have a pitch-perfect pop record with an interesting edginess and some sly integration of off-kilter Japanese pop elements. And to that end, this is obviously indebted to Grimes' Art Angels, but hey, that's probably my favourite straight pop album ever, so if you're going to owe such a debt, you may as well owe it to the best. That said, Grimes' crown is definitely in jeopardy here, as this record is pretty much as good as Art Angels. Hell, it might even be better. As I already said, this LP is pretty much perfect. It's consistent from start to finish with no weak material, and occasionally throws up some real surprises. I mean, it seems so strange that an R&B banger like Bad Friend could nestle on the same album as the pulverizing pop metal of STFU. Other highlights on a flawless LP include XS with its brutal buzzsaw guitars, Chosen Family is a beautiful and emotive ballad dripping with classical melodies. And talking of classical, Snakeskin has a really badass blend of classical piano and banging synth pop, whilst Akasaka Sad is deliriously catchy with a chorus that will rattle around your skull for ages. My favourite off of this though probably has to be Tokyo Love Hotel, which is incredibly catchy again but really impresses with its lyrics, as Rina uses Japanese stereotypes as metaphors to throw shade at guys who only want to date her because she's Japanese. It's just a great track, although I have to admit that I'm probably that guy she's complaining about. Sorry Rina. Shoes on the other foot these days though, because I live in Japan and all the Japanese girls want to date me simply because I'm English. Maybe I should make this kind of song and sing about pork scratchings, overpriced dentists and terrifying knife crime. Ah, England, be still my beating heart. Anyway, Rina Sawayama's debut LP is about as good as pop music gets. It is an absolutely fantastic record and a fairly easy pick for the best of 2020. And that's it. That's my 2020 list, but of course that won't be your list, so please sound off in the comments section and tell me all the classics that I've missed. Like, share, subscribe and all that other kind of YouTube jazz. Make sure to check back for my 2021 list. Keep yourself healthy, but most importantly, just keep on ranking.